Hey guys, Sam here from the Quantum Grind Tour. Today I want to talk about incremental scaling and why it's something that we believe at the Quantum Grind Tour. When players enter a tournament, they want transparency. They want to understand how the payouts work and where the money is going. Incremental scaling is designed to make sure that that process is clearer and more proportional as events continue to grow. How do tournaments usually get advertised? Tournaments usually get advertised with a payout for what players are to expect. For example, we're going to host a 10K, a 20K, and a 50K throughout the course of this year. What that means is that amount of money is going out the door no matter what. However, a lot of tournaments do have a clause that say that money is guaranteed assuming they hit the number of players. This is a little bit misleading. So you're saying that if we don't get the number of players, that you're not going to give the money that the tournament has been advertised for. This is misleading, it causes confusion, and most organizers are smart enough and very well versed in their fields to know how many players that they need for their tournaments to function. Many events also use what's called a benchmark scaling system. A benchmark scaling system is as we hit certain number of attendance goals, as a TO, we will give back more money to the players. Here's an example of a benchmark tournament. Let's say we have a $100 entry, $10,000 is being advertised. We'll also say that it's guaranteed, so even if we fall short on players, that $10,000 goes out the door. A lot of tournaments are starting to do this, and that's something that we really like to see in the community. Let's also say that at 250 players, we'll give out $15,000, and at 300 players, we'll give out $20,000. Here's a graph of what that looks like. Let's take a look at a couple of the regions of the graph here. If you can see in this beginning section here, the organizer is actually losing money because they are paying out more money that's coming in. That's why you can see that the blue line falls below the red line. What this means is the tournament organizer is losing money until they reach that break-even point. 100 players, $100 a piece, $10,000 in prize support. Now, this doesn't include any other factors. They still need to pay the judges, cover the venue costs, taxes, credit card processing fees, and a bunch of other miscellaneous things behind the scenes. But that's just in terms of prize support by itself. So it does make sense that in all other scenarios, once 100 players has been exceeded, that the TO does exceed the red line. This is totally fair and reasonable. We all understand as an ecosystem that everybody needs to survive, because if the TO is not making money, then why would they continue to provide tournaments? What you'll also see is there are a few different benchmarks here. Here you can see where the TO is starting to progressively give out more money. Great, but there are some discrepancies. What happens in between these regions? As you can see, the gap between the blue line and the red line continues to increase. What that means is the TO is collecting more money until those benchmarks are hit and the payout percentage collectively goes down. This is something that can be avoided and one of the fallacies behind a benchmark system. So, if the event gets close to 250 players in this example but doesn't quite hit, the payout may not change at all even though the player count has significantly increased. For players, that can definitely feel less transparent. Incremental scaling works differently. Instead of waiting for a large benchmark jump for the payouts to increase, every additional entry contributes towards the prize pool. For the Quantum Grind Tour, we believe this offers more transparency and helps players better understand how the event is scaling. Also shows you where the money is going. Here's this comparable example. Let's take a look at a tournament still. $100 entry, $10,000 in prize support. We'll say that the $10,000 is also guaranteed, but that we're going to scale at approximately 77% past 130 players. So for every player past 130, we will add approximately $77 back in prize support as a donation to the players. Let's take a look and see what that looks like in the similar scale. As you can see here in the beginning section, until they reach that 100 player cap, they're still losing money on just the prize support by itself. You'll also notice in the same way, the blue line, once we exceed that, will always overcome the red line, which means that the TO is bringing in more money that they're paying out. And there should always be a gap in between here for the same reason. Still need to cover venues, judges, taxes, credit card fees, a bunch of other things behind the scenes that may or may not be thought about. But as you continue to see, as the red line continues to grow, the red line and blue line grow together. What this means is that as more players show up to the tournament and more players enter, more prize support is incrementally given back to the players. Instead of waiting for a large milestone, it just continues as attendance grows. This creates a smoother and more transparent payout structure. Let's take a look at these two things side by side. Here you can see we have the same thing on both accounts. The blue line, once we hit that 100 player threshold in both scenarios, will both start to overcome. What that means is that the TO starts to make more money once they hit larger and larger attendance scales. However, and you'll see in the incremental scaling, the players are receiving more money over time. In closing, incremental scaling is all about transparency, consistency, and growing alongside the community. As the Quantum Grind Tour continues to grow, we want players to clearly understand how our events scale and where the money is going. Check us out at quantumgrindtour.com, where you can learn more about payouts. You can see our payouts in real time for our next and upcoming tournament, and how our $20,000 tournament coming down the line has a 78% guaranteed payout minimum. We hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and bye for now.